This bulletin proudly brought to you in association with Alex Campbell's Menswear.
Tonight on The South Today, Dunedin art lovers are in for a real treat as the city's Fringe Festival kicks off. Police were kept busy overnight with St Patrick's Day revellers in North Dunedin. And marching teams from across New Zealand have converged on Dunedin for national competitions. Kia ora, good evening, I'm Melissa Barton. Dunedin's Fringe Festival is set to entertain art lovers over the next week and a half. Along with numerous live acts and exhibitions, organisers have this year added an online component, just in case COVID-19 restrictions kick in.
The Dunedin Community Gallery, next to the Octagon, has been taken over for the next week and a half as a live performance venue and licensed bar for all manner of fringe acts, including Dunedin funk group The Beat Skips, seen here during their sound check. Festival director Gareth McMillan says there'll be over 100 acts in various venues, all of which are worth seeing.
For me, I think a good fringe festival as a whole experience, you should see some art which just absolutely blows your mind. You should see something that really challenges you and provokes you. And you should also see something that's a bit rubbish, because that's part of a fringe festival as well.
Over the next 10 days, the Fringe Festival will showcase an eclectic range of artistic acts, with many hoping this will help springboard their creative careers.
People get involved in fringe festivals for various reasons, and part of the reason we exist is to help provide some scaffolding in order to enable people to succeed in the industry. So those are the people who perhaps might look at developing a work and then take it to another festival or another season afterwards, or to tour it or something like that, which is great. But then we still do have a lot of people that just want to participate just for the joy of making something beautiful and a bit crazy.
Last year's festival had to be cancelled due to COVID-19, but McMillan says they're prepared this year with an online portal, just in case the situation changes and live events are not allowed to go ahead.
Yeah, that's very much part of the contingency. It's also a lovely way of including some of the international artists who aren't able to be here in person. And it's really exciting. So, you know, some nights you feel like going out and getting your glade rags on and your dancing shoes and coming out to see some fringe shows, but other nights you might just want to sit at home and go, you know what, I've seen everything on Netflix, so what's on the fringe?
In Dunedin, The South Today.
Conservationists say scenes of cars stuck in the mud will continue to blight the southern landscape this winter after the government has delayed new rules for farmers. Despite recent footage of cows giving birth in mud, farmers say their practices are improving every year. They welcome the delay in implementing what they call unworkable new intensive winter grazing rules. Environment Minister David Parker says farmers' winter grazing practices are undermining freshwater quality. While new rules will be deferred until May next year, Parker says immediate improvements are needed, with increased monitoring and reporting by councils set to measure improvements. Police were kept busy overnight as thousands of partygoers, mostly in the Dunedin student area, celebrated St Patrick's Day. Several people were arrested in a night filled with violence and injury, fuelled by excess alcohol.
Crowds of Dunedin students lived it up yesterday, celebrating St Patrick's Day in boozy fashion, with some saying they'd begun drinking as early as 7 a.m. Castle Street residents split into boys and girls groups for a daytime flat crawl, while on the corner of Queen and Union Streets, a large group of young men was wearing blue instead of the traditional green. As the day became night, a drunk driver who got into a fight before getting into his car and swerving at partygoers was just one of several incidents in this year's St Patrick's Day carnage in Dunedin. No couches were set on fire during the festivities, but police were called to Castle Street at about 1:40 a.m. after people had set a mattress on fire on the front lawn of a flat. Firefighters extinguished the blaze and the suspects were identified by Campus Watch. Police say they were kept busy overnight as thousands of partiers, many in the student area, celebrated the occasion. Senior Sergeant Craig Dinnison says while the vast majority of students were well behaved, a small pocket of partygoers had got what he called rat-faced and drank to excess. In Dunedin, the South Today.
A public rally planned for Queenstown tomorrow has been canned. Organisers say the cancellation was in part because visiting Tourism Minister Stuart Nash declined to attend. Though there are reports a trans-Tasman bubble could be in place before the end of April, organisers hope to get more clarity on the potential border openings and vaccination timelines for the hard-hit region. Nash is in the south visiting Invercargill today before travelling to Tiana and Queenstown. Dunedin is hosting the Marching New Zealand National Championships for the first time in 6 years. This annual event is set to showcase about 50 teams from all over the country, performing in crisp uniforms or putting their best feet forward.
Receiving their marching orders. Dunedin is hosting the Marching New Zealand National Championships for the first time since 2014. Teams have travelled around the country for the event, including this team from the Hawke's Bay, who say they're here to compete.
We focus on the performance. We have lots of performance goals, so we focus completely on the performance rather than on the outcome. And lots of tools, we use lots and lots of tools to improve that performance.
Buckingham Guards coordinator Stacey Syme says teams practice all through the year back up in the Hawke's Bay. Team member Ella Curtis has been part of the Buckingham Guards for many years and says it's something she was drawn to and now loves.
Well, I went to the RSA one night with my family and I watched a performance done by Buckingham Guards, and then I just came along and tried it out and enjoyed it.
Teams competing in Dunedin this week are set to be judged on a traditional marching program as well as modern routines. Ella Curtis says people should get into marching if they like what they see and are interested.
Do it. Just do it. Because it's really fun and you make lots of great friends and you get to travel all over New Zealand.
Stacey Syme has been part of a Nationals winning team and says at the end of the day marching is all about fun and she wishes the other teams taking part the very best of luck.
Have fun, don't forget that it is about the performance and working hard, but it's also about having fun. And one of our goals for this Nationals is, one of my goals for the girls is for them to come away from Nationals and had a really good time.
Marching Otago say they're looking forward to the buzz which the event brings to the host city. Competitions are being held at the Edgar Centre on March 19th and 20th. In Dunedin, the South Today.
Still to come on the South Today, we take a look at new images of the proposed Mosgiel swimming pool, and we have the latest edition of Global Insight with Professor Robert Patman. So catch this and more after the break.
Hi, it's Lindsay here from Alex Campbell Menswear. Our 3 stores have got a deal for you. We're going hard, we're going early, so we've gone hard on the prices, 50% off, a great selection. Shorts, look at all these shorts. T-shirts, they're all half price. Check out all those tees along there. What about all these ones down here? Also at a great saving, 50% off. We're going hard, we're going early. Polo shirts, short sleeve shirts, there's such a variety.
Alex Campbell Menswear, it fits.
It's the Alex Campbell Menswear. Go hard, go early, summer sale. Don't miss this one.
Ah, TV, our favourite babysitter. But it can be tough keeping up with what our tamariki are watching. Luckily, the Broadcasting Standards Authority has made some smart changes to the classification labels. Ooh! Plus changes to the time of day certain rated shows will air, and awesome new parental lock features, meaning your babysitter's job is safe. Find out more at safeviewing.co.nz.
A poorly maintained heat pump can lose up to 35% of its output. The Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner team are experts. Their specially developed chemical wash is totally biodegradable. Call Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner and get the job done by the professionals.
If you're at risk of developing melanoma skin cancer, you owe it to yourself to have a mole map. Mole Map is coming to your area. Phone today to make an appointment. It could save your life.
Absolutely good time, you should come.
Welcome back. Former Dunedin Mayor Dave Cull remains upbeat about maintaining his quality of life following a short stint in hospice care. Cull, who has pancreatic cancer, says he's eager to challenge the misconception that hospices are where people go to die. In his case, the aim was to prepare him and his family for care at home after nearly 5 weeks in hospital. Cull confirmed his diagnosis in October and stood down from his role as chairman of the Southern District Health Board after he started receiving chemotherapy treatment. He told the Otago Daily Times his prognosis reinforced the importance of having honest conversations with family. New images of the planned Mosgiel swimming pool have been released. Designers are working on opportunities to weave cultural elements into the look of the building. Inside, the pool will have 4 water spaces, including lap, learners, toddlers and hydrotherapy. A spa pool will also be part of the new complex. A car park will include e-vehicle and e-bike charging stations. Construction is set to begin in the middle of this year, with the pool open by the end of next year. In today's Global Insight, Professor Robert Patman says the 10-year-old Syrian war highlights the urgent need to reform the United Nations. The international affairs commentator says the United Nations Security Council has been largely reduced to an impotent bystander.
It was during this month, in 2011, that pro-democracy demonstrations began in Syria. A decade on, 380,000 Syrians have been killed. Refugees have been displaced worldwide, and the fighting continues. Welcome, Robert.
Hi, Bruce.
I think that I recall that the Syrian conflict was the first modern civil war that was caused, at least in part, by climate change. How did it start, and why has it dragged on for a decade?
Climate change may well have contributed to the problem. As I understand it, severe drought compounded by climate change led to many farmers abandoning their crops and moving towards Syrian cities. But I think that probably added fuel to an already smouldering situation. The Bashar al-Assad regime was not immune to the currents of unrest that were sweeping the Arab world during that period. It started in Tunisia, it spread to Egypt, and a number of other Arab countries, including Syria, by 2011. And the real spark was a series of peaceful protests by Syrian citizens against the very tough rule or oppressive rule Bashar Assad's dictatorship has in that country. And the regime responded by shooting dead the peaceful protesters. That went on for about 3 months before, most inevitably, the protesters got the message that it wasn't safe to protest peacefully, and they took up arms. And we've had a civil war ever since, unfortunately.
So how has this Syrian crisis affected the world?
Enormously. We've had, as you mentioned in your remarks, there's been huge, half the population of Syria, a country of about 23 million people, has been displaced. Either they've had to be moved internally because of the dislocation caused by civil war. I mean, the country has been reduced largely to rubble. Which is a tragedy for the country, and it's very difficult to see how we can cover from this easily. The economic damage alone is in excess of $1 trillion. But you've got 7 million people within Syria having to move from their homes, but you've also had something close to around about 5 million who've had to leave the country. Something like 3.5 million Syrians are now in camps in Turkey. And you have Germany accepted about 1 million Syrian refugees in 2016, and New Zealand in Dunedin has absorbed 545 Syrian refugees. So no, this was near civil war, but it has global ramifications.
Should the United Nations have played a more active role in stopping outside players having a role in Syria's domestic affairs? And for that matter, what role has the UN played in all of this?
Unfortunately, the UN Security Council, we often use the term UN, but it's the UN Security Council, which is the key decision-making body, has behaved quite disgracefully during this conflict. And I think the fact that this war has gone on for 10 years with the UN Security Council largely reduced to a bystander, with more than, you mentioned 380,000 deaths. In fact, that's probably a conservative estimate, Bruce. The estimate is probably in excess of 400,000. And the world has largely looked on. You could say, well, why has this civil war gone on for so long? Well, but there's been no international machinery is in place to stop it. Because while we have great powers which can block anything they don't like in the United Nations, other Syrias will continue to happen. But Syria, I think, is testament and, if you like, an indicator of the urgent need to reform the United Nations so it can perform the role that was envisaged for it by its founders, which is to safeguard international peace and security. At the moment, it's totally incapable of doing that, and Syria is testimony to its impotence.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching. Catch us next time on Global Insight. Ka kite anō.
And you can watch the full interview with Professor Patman online at odt.co.nz. After the break on The South Today, there are even more environmental concerns about the Tiwai Point smelter, and we check out the weather as we head towards the weekend. So see you after the break.
If you're at risk of developing melanoma skin cancer, you owe it to yourself to have a mole map. Mole map is coming to your area. Phone today to make an appointment. It could save your life.
Hi, it's Lindsay here from Alex Campbell Menswear. Our 3 stores have got a deal for you. We're going hard, we're going early, so we've gone hard on the prices, 50% off, a great selection. Shorts, look at all these shorts. T-shirts, they're all half price. Check out all those tees along there. What about all these ones down here? Also at a great saving, 50% off. We're going hard, we're going early. Polo shirts, short sleeve shirts, there's such a variety.
Alex Campbell Menswear, it fits.
It's the Alex Campbell Menswear, go hard, go early, summer sale. Don't miss this one.
A poorly maintained heat pump can lose up to 35% of its output. The Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner team are experts. Their specially developed chemical wash is totally biodegradable. Call Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner and get the job done by the professionals.
Thanks for staying with us. Rising sea levels could have catastrophic consequences with irreversible environmental damage at the Tiwai Point aluminium smelter. An engineer's report to Treasury says it's almost certain the rising sea will eventually swamp the area after the smelter is closed down. The landfill currently contains enough waste to fill 250 Olympic-sized swimming pools. Talks on how to clean up the site stalled this month, with the government protesting lack of transparency by the company. The Ministry for the Environment says it does not know if it can hold the smelter company legally liable to clean up. And now recapping tonight's top stories on the South Today. Dunedin art lovers are in for a real treat as the city's Fringe Festival kicks off. Police were kept busy overnight with St Patrick's Day revellers in North Dunedin. And marching teams from across New Zealand have converged on Dunedin for national competitions. And now, time for a look at what's happening in tomorrow's ODT. Welcome the editor, Barry. How are you doing?
Very good, Mel. How are you?
Not bad.
Excellent.
Not bad, it's Thursday.
And some more exciting news. Talk of the travel bubble. Travel bubble with Australia is gaining momentum. So we've talked to business leaders and travel people and various others around the South to get their reaction to that and ask the question, of course, are we ready? But there's some momentum there, and we'll have also the national side of things where the government has talked positively about that today. On a sour note, the Night and Day group is fed up with drunken Dunedin thieves pocketing pies without paying.
Oh.
So there's a bit of a trend of that in recent times, that they apparently tuck the pies down their trousers and try and walk out of the shop without paying.
That could be catastrophic if anything happened to the pie. They'd get quite nasty burns.
True. Yeah, not a good look, but we won't go there.
Just thinking about that.
So the Otago Regional Council's work on the Kaikoura stream likely lead to the deaths of hundreds of fish. But the work was lawful, and the council's investigation into the matter was thorough and sound, according to an independent investigation. So Jonathan Lamalu is back in Dunedin. He's been back for a little while, and he's continually surprised by people coming up into the street and on the street and saying hello. So he's been recognised in the street, so he's delighted by that. So we talked to Jonathan about about life and COVID, because of course he was locked up in the UK under COVID restrictions, and he wanted to bring his family back to the safer parts of the world, i.e. Dunedin. So
I don't blame him for that.
Well, exactly, a good decision. So we catch up with Jonathan on that, and of course, big sporting weekend. Bangladesh are in town to play the Black Caps in a one-dayer on Saturday. So we have a look at that in their sports lift out today.
Wonderful, and you can catch all of that in tomorrow's ODT. And now it's time for a look at the weather.
Tonight's weather proudly brought to you by Mole Map.
Beginning with the southern view, autumnal scenes at the Otago Museum Reserve. Looking at the situation, high pressure equals fine weather, and this current high pressure system is very slow to move across the Tasman Sea and the South Island, making for a long settled spell for the southern districts. We start off at the northwest of the South Island, sunny with a sprinkle of cloud for both Westport and Greymouth, with moderate to gusty winds. Westport reaches 18 degrees and Greymouth a slightly higher 19 degrees. Planned for sunny weather with light to moderate winds in the northeast, with Nelson and Blenheim both here, with 21 degrees in Nelson and 19 in Blenheim. And it's a sunny, clear day in Canterbury with moderate winds, 17 degrees for Kaikoura and 19 degrees for both Christchurch and Ashburton. Moving to the southern towns, you're due for light winds and mostly clear skies across the southern towns. The Catlins, Balclutha, Lumsden and Gore all heading for 16 degrees. The light winds are also due to feature across central Otago with clear skies, 19 degrees for Wanaka and Queenstown, slightly higher with 20 degrees in Alexandra, while Te Anau is due for 16. Moving to the northern towns, more fine weather and light winds for the coastal towns. Oamaru heads for 17 degrees, with Timaru tipped to get to 18. And it's the same heading inland to Twizel and Amarama, but slightly warmer temperatures will feature here, with Twizel set to reach 19 and Amarama 20 degrees. In Dunedin, fine and cold tonight with an overnight low of 5. It's due to be mostly fine and sunny tomorrow with a high of 16 and a low of 6. And Saturday is set to be similar to Friday, heading for a high of 16 and a low of 7. And in Invercargill, it's going to be cold for you tonight in Invercargill, with an overnight low of 4 degrees. Fine and sunny tomorrow on Saturday with light westerlies, cold at night with daytime temperatures about average for this time of year. Tomorrow sees a high of 16 and a low of 5, and Saturday is the same with a high of 16 and a low of 5. And that's all from the South Today team for this Thursday. For the latest news from the southern region, head to odt.co.nz and follow Channel 39 on Facebook and YouTube. Have a great evening. Ka kite anō.
This bulletin proudly brought to you in association with Alex Campbell's Menswear.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.